You know, when we got out here to Tanzania 5 years ago, we were on a mission. We were on a mission to make disciples. We had all sorts of ministry plans to do it. And really, as I put this book together, you know, One Bloody Road, the Glorious Way of Discipleship, it's years. I mean, it's years that go way beyond arriving here in Tanzania. They go back to my earliest days in the church as a 5-year-old boy. And it's just the culmination of a heart poured out and trying to make ones who look like Jesus. You know, when you set out on a mission to accomplish something, a lot of times what you figure out first is how unable you are to do it. You figure out exactly which tools you don't have. And there comes a point in working to making disciples that you really have to look yourself in the eye and ask the question, am I a disciple? Am I a disciple of Jesus? Am I willing to do the things Jesus said? You find yourself looking in the mirror and asking simple questions about what you do with your time and the fruit that's coming from your labor and your work, you know. And a lot of times you find yourself throwing your hands up and just going, Lord, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this without you. So this book, really, it's not a manual on how to make disciples. I don't know that I can answer that question. I don't know how to make disciples. I know how to be a disciple, or at least I'm learning. And all that really is just following Jesus. I just follow him. You know, I listen for his voice. I get in his word. I get around his children. And I get close to him. I get into his presence. I feel his heartbeat. I listen to him speak. I watch him move. And I try to do the same things. Try to treat people the same way. So much of that is just simply being willing to die. It's being willing to be crucified. It's when you have an expectation or a want or a need, it's being willing to lay it aside and see Jesus lifted up or see somebody else lifted up in his name. You know, when we try to harness that and we try to turn it into a program, you lose something. If you're not in real covenant, if you're not in real relationship and communion with people, if you just show up on a Sunday or you show up on a Tuesday and you're there for the prayer meeting or you're there for the worship and you're ready for a breakthrough and then you go home and you try to get that to last all week long, that's not discipleship. That's not making disciples. It's not being disciples. It's not the way it worked. Jesus lived and breathed. He ate, slept, walked with a group of guys. They got to know each other. They disappointed each other. They lifted each other up. In the end, that was what it was to make disciples. It was to be one, under the one. It was to be together in union, by the unity of the Spirit. When their cultures, when their backgrounds, their jobs, their professions, their status didn't mix, it didn't mingle, it didn't make sense. They sat together around one thing that made sense, and that was Jesus. The things he did, the things he said, it made sense. It moved them, it changed them. And they went after it. And when they failed, the moment of his crucifixion, when they found themselves scattered and broken, he came back and he lifted them up. He spoke life back into their very being. That's the walk of a disciple. Death, resurrection, crucifixion, redemption. Yeah, one bloody road, that's what it is. This walk. It's just this bloody walk where we find our flesh being beaten and crucified and stripped. And we just find ourselves pursuing him. And we do it with each other.